First post by Throware Sexually, I, 26F, love having sex with my partner, 25M, but when he directly asks for it, it turns me off a lot. I just entered what I would call a sexual renaissance. I was struggling really hard with body image issues / sexual desire issues / mental health / etc. But anyway, I got a therapist and have been working on it, and I have made what I consider to be great strides. So my sex life has been good lately. Woo. The problem is whenever my partner initiates sex, it's not the way that I do it. I will usually let a kiss linger a bit too long, and then it's sort of a one thing leads to another type situation. All good, still spontaneous, very sexy. He, on the other hand, will just straight up ask, and it's usually not in a super romantic way. Think, we're watching a TV show on Netflix, or I'm playing a video game, and he'll suddenly look over with a smirk and be like, "Want a bone?" which really turns me off for some reason. He did this the other night and I was like, "Hey, I would really like it if you'd romance me or seduce me, etc., and he got kind of weird and quiet and shut down a little bit. I don't know if it's the way that I worded it, or if I wasn't communicating clearly enough, and I felt kinda bad for hurting his feelings, but I don't know, I just really don't like the straightforward "can I get some, my name." It's not romantic or sexy or cheeky, it just puts me off. It's like I need the sex to be a result of something else, I can't go from 0 to 100 like he can. Anyway, I would really like some advice on how to maybe communicate this to him more delicately or clearly. I'm still definitely working out how to talk about my feelings and stuff, and I've been getting better, but this is really a part of my life I don't want to stall on again, so any help for things to say and how to initiate a convo would be really helpful. Thanks. TLDR, I love having sex, but I do not like being straight up asked for sex when we're not doing anything that seems to me like it would organically lead there.
Comments. Number 1, by otherwise inclined, there are a few things that give me pause with this preference. I don't want to presume things about your life, but I would like to hear your take on these few points. First of all, I honestly and seriously hope you initiate and seduce your partner at least close to as often as he does you. If you are worth the work to seduce, surely it would make him feel bad if you were not putting in the same kind of work for him, even if he doesn't technically need it. Not saying this strictly to you, but in general as something for people to be mindful of. Secondly, in a long relationship, having to seduce your partner every single time you want intimacy sounds a bit exhausting to me. Surely sex is something you should both enjoy and want. So if it takes a lot of seducing each time, it might make the man feel like he has to beg for sex, leading to issues similar to those in couples with mismatched sex drives. Lastly, I have heard women complaining about this being an issue so often before that I think it may play a role. That is, complaints about feeling pressured because seemingly every cuddle or hug feels like a prelude to sex. If touching and caressing is a woman's selected form of seduction, then how does one resolve the issue of the woman feeling like every physical interaction, cuddling/kissing, ends up leading to sex and then feel pressure whenever it happens? If every intercourse starts with such seduction, then it may feel this way even if the partner does physical interactions without the intent to have sex. It feels like there should be a reasonable sweet spot between physical interaction that does and does not lead to sex. But wouldn't that just leave the woman wondering each time whether these are normal cuddles of affection or about to get sexual cuddles? Which is why I assume a clear statement of, "I want to have sex with you," could sometimes be needed maybe. I think this is definitely an issue that needs to be well communicated between partners. There needs to be a solution that allows both partners to feel valued, desired, and loved, as well as giving them all the foreplay they need in order to get intimate. Number 2, by otherwise inclined, if your needs include an elaborate dinner at an expensive restaurant before you can agree to sex, even when in a committed relationship of many years, then you do you. You deserve to feel appreciated and fulfilled, and shouldn't lower your expectations of your partner below what you consider acceptable. I personally wouldn't want to date someone who has such needs, as I feel it would be too bothersome to keep such standards. I think it may be difficult to find a man who is willing to do a whole seduction process every time. Nothing wrong with a quickie, but if that's your need, then I can only wish you luck. Most people tend to eventually drop the pretense when in long-term relationships, such as not farting around your spouse. If that's how you want to live, then go you, but to me it would be suffocating after some time. And I'd like to note that I say this while being very much in support of the idea that a good relationship requires both sides to never stop trying and putting in effort for their partner. I agree that just because you have put a ring on them doesn't mean it's okay to stop trying to be attractive to them. This is how relationships die. But again, everything has a limit.
Number 3, by Proteins 911, I wanted to respond because I also very much like seduction. It doesn't have to be exhausting. It's as easy as him running his hands up and down my legs while watching TV, or us taking a sexy shower together. I actually think that by him putting a small amount of effort into seducing me, the rest of sex requires much less effort for him. If he gets me very turned on, then I'll basically attack him, and come quickly, and then can focus my attention all on him. My partner doesn't enjoy most stereotypically seduction actions. I do initiate sex as frequently though, and I put equivalent effort into things he enjoys to get sex going. This usually means that I initiate sex by going right into giving him a long BJ. I don't like the idea that spending time doing what your partner enjoys is exhausting and a turn off. My partner really enjoys oral sex, and so I don't think we've ever even had sex without me giving me lots of oral. I've never viewed it as exhausting. Isn't the whole point of sex to have fun and make your partner feel good? If turning your partner on is too much effort, then I lean into thinking they probably don't have the energy for sex and perhaps should masturbate instead.
Reply from Otherwise Inclined, thank you for this comment. I have heard many stories of men lazy in bed and refusing to do foreplay, but what you described I would consider basic skinship. Like, how do you even get to bed without first putting your hands all over your partner, or stroking/kissing/caressing them? I don't know if it's normal for most men to just go straight for insertion with no cuddling before/after and no real physical contact other than with the penis, but that isn't what I would call normal. If your partner is attractive to you, then normal would be not being able to take your eyes/hands off of them even outside of sex. This is why I was wondering about what seducing one's partner means to people, because what you or op described would just count as a regular warm-up to sex, nothing fancy enough to be called seducing. The way I imagined this expected seducing would have involved a lot more work than just some kissing and stroking, although that might be because physical touch is important to me, so my perspective is probably skewed a bit. But thank you for clearing that up too, it helped me put things into perspective. Number 4, by visible_actuator_250, well, high-risk short and effective way is to have a talk with him. Try to lay out ground rules that both of you will try to not get mad at what the other says and listen. Could be a sign something is wrong or that he thought this behavior was fine with you and perhaps it threw him off and just took it as a rejection and probably got an ego moment where he didn't want to do that because you asked for something in response, which seems like a common thing people do. But if you can get a talk going and get where both you and him are able to listen without feeling offended for opening up about what each person wants in the relationship, it will 1, prevent egos from being hurt as it is well known what both people want, and 2, become a standard for dealing with issues in the future. But this only works if both people are able to hear things from their partner and try to understand them and be willing to work with them, instead of playing a power game to just get what they want and degrade their partner for their desires, wants, and needs, as some people could want something from you that might seem offensive and vice versa, and most of what I see people tend to use that to hate them and say they are wrong, possibly end the relationship over it. This could take time and should expect both yourself and him to make mistakes, but that's life. I'm speaking generally here, but I think this is an important step in a relationship since it keeps couples from hiding things from each other in fear of being demonized by their partner and helps set boundaries and expectations before something happens so it doesn't seem sudden and hurtful when a boundary is crossed or an expectation isn't met with their partner and feel confused or rejected. But best thing to know is consistency is key in communicating. There is no perfect way to say something. You can only try over and over in different ways with him. Ask him if he understands. Try to get him to open up and try to understand him by asking what is on his mind, and if anything comes up that is offensive, try your best not to get mad, as most people suck at communicating and only way to get better is to keep practicing. Not sure if I said this right, but any questions I'm willing to answer, even going over thoughts on what to say. I find it helpful to see what other people think on what I would say first, cuz I might say something inconsiderate, rude or hurtful without even noticing, as most people do. But anyway, if this seems like something you think will work and want to know more, comment below and my DMs are open.
Second post by OKChef7803. I've always known my boyfriend's mom didn't like me, and I found out it's because I'm white. My boyfriend wants me to forgive and forget and start fresh. Editing to add, this isn't even all of it. There has been so much that's happened that I didn't feel like I had room to write it all. I'll gladly answer questions. My biggest issue is that he seems to care more how his mom feels than me. He doesn't care how I've been treated, and how suddenly he feels bad our baby doesn't have a relationship with her, and he acts like it's my fault, and I should forgive and forget everything. He wants me to just sit and hang out with his family, who has made it clear they don't like me. He wants me to pretend everything is fine. So technically not my MIL quite yet, but we are planning on getting married. From the very beginning, I knew his mom didn't like me. I never gave her a reason. I'm a very shy and quiet and awkward girl, and I am very respectful. I tried really hard with his whole family, but I've never felt welcome. When I got pregnant, they were overly nice for the duration of my pregnancy, and as soon as I had my baby, they acted like I didn't exist. I would take our baby over to their house for visits, and they'd take my baby out of my arms and ignore me the rest of the time I was there. I felt horribly awkward and uncomfortable. His mom overstepped my boundaries more than once, so I decided after getting lied to and disrespected that our baby wouldn't go to their house without me, and I was honest about being uncomfortable and offered them to come visit any time. Right after our baby was born, my boyfriend still lived with his mom, and it was hard on me to do everything on my own. I brought up the idea of me moving into their home, and she said no. So he moved in with me and my family. They haven't attempted to see our baby in 6 months. It was no longer on their terms, so they didn't try. I didn't care much because I was treated badly by them, and they've lied and done things behind my back like feeding my preemie 1-month-old 3 bottles full of oatmeal, baby rice and baby food. And lying about it. Now it's almost my baby girl's birthday, and they made a huge deal saying they don't have a relationship with her, and it isn't fair my family sees her all the time, and they don't. A few months back when I was looking at a conversation my boyfriend had with his very close cousin, his cousin brought up me, and my BF moving in with his mom, and my boyfriend said she already said no. His cousin said oh it's because she's white, and my boyfriend said yeah. So that's when I learned she didn't like me for no reason. She doesn't like that I'm white. She doesn't like me period. I had awful PPD, and instead of supporting me, she tried to get me locked up, and said she was scared I'd hurt my baby. She kept telling my boyfriend to get me admitted, and saying I probably needed time away from the baby. She'd decide she was gonna come take my baby for a few hours, and have an attitude when I'd say no. She made me sound like a horrible mom, and so did her other children. Saying I wash bottles wrong. Making fun of blankets I bought because they weren't pink. Saying I fed her too much. I didn't know how to be a mom, and she knows everything, and saying doctors can be wrong, and she's not the only baby in the world, when she fed my preemie baby bottles full of food, and ruined her stomach. So in 6 months, she hasn't attempted to see my baby, or even have a conversation with me. I've never gotten an apology. Nothing. Now all of a sudden they said they're going to start coming to my house to see the baby, and I told my boyfriend I'd appreciate an apology from them. He said I won't get it and to just forgive and forget. I'm looking for some advice. I'm extremely salty over this whole situation. Him not taking into consideration how they've treated me and never once seemed sorry. Now after 6 months they suddenly want to see my baby, and I'm supposed to act like nothing has ever happened? He's mad BC I refer to them as his family, and he said we're getting married so they're my family too. They've never even attempted to make me feel welcome or feel like family. My family has been amazing to my boyfriend and so welcoming and accepting. My dad let him move in immediately and didn't ask for rent or anything. But his mom didn't want me in her house BC I'm white. Comments by Hichtel.
Ask him a simple question, is how they treated you right? If he says yes you have a huge problem, and that needs to be solved before you can even think of allowing them to come for a visit. If he says no then you tell him you agree, and because of that there will be no visit without an apology, and a real attempt of treating you right and with respect. Being treated with decency and respect is not unreasonable, and you will not allow anybody ever again to treat you like this. And warn him if the disrespect starts again, you will shoot back harsh and swift, and then they can apologize or leave. If you do not do this and allow them to just rug sweep, they will never treat you like you deserve to be treated since they know they can get away with their racism. BTW pay attention to his face when you use that exact term and his reaction, it will tell you a lot.
Third post by Ada. Throw it away. 4. AITA for telling my mom she will no longer be allowed to see her granddaughter. Ever since I, 24F, was a kid, my mom has done nothing but criticize my weight. Made comments every time I ate, weighed me constantly, literally went to the school to tell them to make sure I never ate candy, or treats, or pizza, and even praised me when I subsequently developed an eating disorder as a preteen/teen. She told me at one point she would disown me if I ever got fat. I still see therapists and work through the damage she caused me my whole life. I limit my contact with her because even as an adult she convinces me to weigh myself. I literally have a fear of scales, and gives me advice. I have a 17-month-old daughter. She adores her grandma, and I let them see each other every now and then since they both love to see each other, and I usually have my fiancé drop her off. Last night was a family gathering. I was invited and decided to go since the family I am close to was going, and so many people would be there, and I could keep my distance from my mom. My daughter was sitting on my aunt's lap while I was there along with other people. My mom came over and said something like, "Wow, she's getting chubby. She should go along with you to a Weight Watchers meeting, and you can both learn good eating habits." I was livid. I'm used to her making comments to me, have been for years, but now she was attacking my child. I nearly lost it, took my daughter, and said we were leaving, and if she can say that shit then she won't be seeing grandchild ever again. One of my cousins texted me later to check on me. She said she agreed with what I told my mom. Also told me, I asked her to, that my mom is playing the victim, and most of the people who were there think I'm a bitch. My aunt said it's cruel to keep a grandmother from seeing her grandchild. I don't feel like I'm an asshole, but I'm genuinely curious if other people besides my family think I am. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure my daughter doesn't have the issues I did, and if that means keeping her from seeing my mom, I won't hesitate from it. Comments. Number 1, by Reluctant Vegetarian. I actually grew up with a very similar mother, and because of it have been a food compulsive my entire life. I have told this story on Reddit before. When my daughter was little we were having a meal with my parents, and my mom turned to me and said, motioning to my daughter, "She's a little vacuum cleaner, isn't she?" Meaning she was sucking up food. I steamed, and the minute I got my mother alone I told her very slowly and clearly that if she ever made a comment again about my daughter's eating or body it would be the very last time she ever saw her. And it worked. I am not sure why it worked, but it did. And I understand there are plenty of people out there who see a boundary as something to be crossed, but I thank God that if just this once my mother got it. OP, you are 100% in the right. You are protecting your child from one of the worst scourges that affects women in society today. NTA.